Welcome in, everybody, to the CFB Nation All-America podcast. I'm Bill Trocchi, senior editor at sportingnews.com, alongside Bill Bender, our national college football writer at sportingnews.com, and the president of the Football Writers Association of America. We're coming to you live on our CFB Nation YouTube channel again. If you want to subscribe, just go over to youtube.com, search CFB Nation, and click subscribe. Bill, we are headed into week 9. We're going to do a viewer's guide today. And of course, we are going to have some Trocchi trivia, but we're also going to have a discussion on non-conference scheduling. Why the big boys of the Big Ten should not schedule hard teams from the SEC. Can't wait for this discussion.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on. Obviously another week getting into week 9. I gotta, before we even get started, I don't even know if he's here, but I gotta apologize to Father Penny. There he is. He's here. Look at him. For publicly picking the Trojans to cover last week in the rain. We didn't get to that when we were talking to Dan the other day on the podcast, but I am aware that I missed the pick. I hope I hope I'm forgiven, and I don't think I'm picking. Notre Dame, they're on bye this week, right? Who they playing?
They have an off week.
They're off. So they're a bye, so I don't have to pick against them. And as we get into the November schedule, I'll try to pick the Irish every week, I suppose.
Father Penny told me last week that his Thursday mornings, this is the time he prepares for his sermon. So I don't know if we're going to get into the sermon at some point, but he did share that this podcast eats into his preparation for his sermon. So
yeah, and it's an exciting time in the Bender house. Bella has her first basketball practice tonight. I'm the coach for one more year of a bunch of 6th grade girls. They're ready to get after it, and then Grant and his buddies will be playing in a lacrosse tournament in a couple weeks. So I can't get away. I enjoy balancing the workload here with doing all that stuff with the kids, and hopefully it comes across in this show.
All right. Well, let's get into some Trocchi trivia, and then we'll get into we got to do the confidence contest too. Good news for the Trocchi fans out there in the confidence contest, as I have caught fire the last 2 weeks. But anyway, we'll start it off with Trocchi trivia like we always do. Bill, I'm confident you can get this one, but might be harder than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name the 3 Power 4 teams that have the worst point differential this season? Pretty straightforward. Can you name the 3?
Basically, yeah, okay.
The 3 Power 4 teams.
I think I know one of them based on a Slack message this morning. Yeah, I got one. Let's see if I can figure out the other 2.
Worst point differential this season. So we'll get to that at the end of the show. I actually asked Brian Driscoll this morning, and he took him a little bit, but he eventually got 2 out of 3, whatever. So we'll see how you do there. I asked another friend too, but all right. Well, let's get into some non-conference scheduling before we get into a busy week 9, which game day visiting my alma mater in Nashville this weekend for Vanderbilt, Missouri. So that's exciting. But first, let's talk non-conference scheduling. So you talked to me this week. I'm going to let you have the floor. We were going through Michigan, and they have basically an opportunity to be 10-1 heading into the
9-2.
Well, they would have had a chance to be 10-1 if Oklahoma didn't get them early in the season. Heading into the game against Ohio State, you speculated they lost that game. 10-2 would have gotten them in. So, but now it looks like 9-3. 9-3 would be a lot more difficult. You questioned the wisdom of playing at Oklahoma for a non-conference game.
Yeah, here's the point, and here's the flaw in this system. Had Michigan played, I think they already had a MAC school. So they played somebody like UCF and beat them. Then they go 10-1 into Ohio State, and that game they're probably in no matter what. So my point was, if the playoff game is to go 10-2 and the committee's just going to look at 10-2 over 9-3, why would you step out and schedule that game? And it was like I ran this by my friends too. And same thing with Texas. It's like, if Texas goes 9-3 and they lose to Ohio State, why did they play that game? if we're just going to put 10-2 teams in. And I still think that's the name of the game right now. I charted it out this morning. There are 38 if you count Notre Dame power conference schools with 2 losses or less heading into week 10. And those are the teams that I'm like, they'll probably make the playoff. How are they actually going to let a 3-loss team in? Now, to your point, it's not like Michigan played well at Oklahoma or played well at USC. Had those been like 3-point losses, I'd be like, well, why aren't they in? Everybody looks at something different with the committee. I've had these conversations all week. Some people say it's good. There's no such thing as a good loss, by the way, in my opinion. A loss is a loss. You can lose by 50. You can lose it. That's how I look at it. I think the committee focuses more on they should focus on who you play and who you beat. So, but that means at some point they're going to have to put a 9-3 team in over a 10-2 team, and I'll believe it when I see it.
They didn't last year, right? You sound like the Alabama AD when you're talking right now about the strength of schedule metric, and they kept SMU in over Alabama last year, and that was an argument for they don't just pick the helmets, which was a good thing in a certain respect. But they did just go with the 1 loss, and clearly Alabama's schedule was more difficult than SMU. So
let me do this for you then. Let me ask you this. How mad will you be as a Vanderbilt alum if Vanderbilt finishes 9-3 and they lose? Maybe they lose to Mizzou close. Maybe they beat Texas, and then Tennessee beats them on the last second field goal. You're 9-3. And they let Illinois at 10-2 over you, who Illinois lost to Indiana by 53 points. And Ohio State, they weren't really competitive. They put a couple touchdowns in late. In my opinion, and if I was stacking those 2 teams up, I would probably say Vanderbilt's a little bit better than them. And then that's my point, is like, and that's less to do with the non-con scheduling and more to do with at what point will the committee put a more deserving 9-3 team in over the 10-2 team. And then until that happens, my thing is do what you can, schedule how you can, that you get to 10 wins, because that's the ticket in.
I mean, that's been Indiana's philosophy, and they literally said it. Like Signetti was like, yeah, we're just going to schedule 3 terrible teams and then just concentrate on the Big Ten games. It's
not the worst play, and everybody panned it, but look at Michigan's non-con in 22 and look at Ohio State's non-con last year. They played nobody. And
Cupcake City.
And nobody cares because they won natties. So like I guess it increases the risk for
right. But when you're on the bubble, you need it. You need it. You need that game. You need that Oklahoma game to separate yourself. When you know you're playing Ohio State and there's no one in your conference that's ranked, you needed that Oklahoma game to get in. If you're Michigan, Vanderbilt's non-conference. Speaking about Vanderbilt, their non-conference schedule was pretty weak. I mean, Virginia Tech was on there; they're having a down year. Other than that, it was all cupcakes. So they didn't expect to be on the bubble. Right. But I do think it helps you tremendously. I mean, Illinois won at Duke. He mentioned Illinois. That's a nice non-conference win this year. You never know what you're getting out of Duke. But that should help him. So I think there was a lot of emphasis, especially with all the noise Alabama made last year about not getting in and going through the SEC. And I think the SEC is tougher this year than it was last year. It's deeper, maybe not at the top, but it's deeper from 3 through whatever.
You have 7 teams. You have 7 teams with 1 loss or less. I'm not ready to sit here and say that like LSU is amazing. They're 5-2. I'm not here to say like Texas or Tennessee is amazing. Like it some of that's uniform too, though, Bill. You're correct. The SEC has the deepest conference and the most ranked teams and the most playoff contenders. But I think we'll harp on that if LSU beats A&M. But if A&M beats LSU, I mean, I'm kind of like, man, you were home at night and you can't beat A&M, like that kind of thing. So I think it does work both ways.
But A&M's got a big win at Notre Dame this year, which
they do
in their back pocket. But LSU won at Clemson, which was a big one, at the time anyway.
Well, my point, and then I'll close it with this, is like Notre Dame's probably going to go 10-2, and Notre Dame's probably going to push a Big Ten team out of the playoff. That's my point. Like The Big Ten will have 3 teams get in for sure, in my opinion. I think Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon are all good, but and Notre Dame did beat USC, so they can't complain. But again, if we're at the end of the road and Illinois is 10-2, and who wins that argument? Illinois is 10-2 and says, "Hey, we lost to number 1 and number 2." And then Notre Dame's sitting there 10-2 and saying, "Hey, we our big win technically is USC," and Illinois says, "We can say that."
It's eye test too.
That'll be tight, and that would be tight. But I think Notre Dame would win that argument.
Yeah, it's how you played, in the games as well. And if you had a bunch of kind of weak games and whatever. So, hopefully there's some subjectivity, and then there's the strength of schedule and all that. But
now if Michigan beats Ohio State and goes 10-2, which I don't think will happen, but we thought that last year, and it's between them and Notre Dame, I would take Michigan.
With that win over Ohio State?
Yeah, they'll get in over Notre Dame at that point, I think. It'll be close, but
yeah.
But then you could say, well, Notre Dame beat USC, Michigan got crushed by USC, then you got to go through the travel and all that. But
we're heading for a car crash, baby.
Yeah, the Ohio State win would end up weighing more at that point. But we got a long way to go to get there.
We got a long way to go.
Oh, Father Penny's mad again. I better stop talking.
So, all right, well, let's get into our viewers guide. It's going to be a fun week. We're starting in the noon window. We got number 8 Ole Miss at number 13 Oklahoma. Noon on ABC. Speaking of Oklahoma's a 5-point favorite here. Another case where the higher ranked team is the underdog, although they're on the road here at least. But last week we saw Ole Miss score 5 touchdowns in its first 5 possessions at Georgia, then went scoreless in their final 3, and they only picked up 1 first down in all of those 3 possessions. So something flipped at the right time for Georgia in that game. We saw the best and the worst of Ole Miss, the Ole Miss offense. Anyway, Ole Miss could not stop the run against Georgia, but when you look at Oklahoma, they're ranked 15th in the SEC in rushing. So they're not going to be able to really take advantage of that as much as Georgia did. One place OU is highly ranked, defense. They lead the nation in yards per game and yards per play. John Mateer looked better last week. 1 more week from surgery after he didn't play well at Red River. And OU beat South Carolina 26-7. We got great offense against great defense. OU's crowd is going to be rowdy. What do you think about this?
It's a defining moment for Ole Miss in a lot of ways. And I picked them to win the game. I don't feel great. It's kind of like last week. I don't feel great about it. But if they lose, Lane Kiffin coaching rumor season will begin. He's going to Florida.
No way.
He's going to Florida. He's going to Florida State. He's going here.
They'll still be all over him.
Yeah, and they need this one to get in the playoff, because I've said on this show and other shows that I still believe Ole Miss is the best program in the country right now that hasn't played in the playoff over the last 5 years. The records show that, and it's just, can Lane win that big game? Last week was an opportunity. This week's a tough one, man. Oklahoma's tough at home. Mateer's good. Their defense is nasty. SEC teams haven't played at Norman. Alabama found that out last year. Like, Tennessee had to gut a win out there last year. They're not used to playing there, and it is one of the tougher places to play in college football. So I do think this is a defining moment in some ways for Ole Miss.
Their stadium was a notable omission.
Yeah.
The Athletics top 25. Did you see that list?
I haven't looked yet, but
Oklahoma didn't make it. I was shocked.
Wow.
And App State did. I was like, come on, really? So
no, Norman's a tough place to play, and that's been proven over the years.
Yes. So that was interesting. Anyway, that was a fun list to go through. All right. Also in the noon window, keep the clicker handy. 2 of the 5 undefeated P4 teams are also in the noon window. We got UCLA at Indiana, noon on Fox, and Georgia Tech hosts Syracuse at noon on ESPN. I'll be over there for that one. We also have Bill Belichick in North Carolina hosting Virginia, and QB Chandler Morris, who reportedly wanted to play for Belichick, and Michael Lombardi said no. That's on the ACC network. We have Kansas State on TNT if you need a little bitter intrastate rivalry early in your day. And then the Hugh Freeze watch is on SEC Network. Auburn at Arkansas, 12:45 kick. So any of those grab you?
We'll talk more about Kansas State later when we get to the confidence contest.
Oh boy, here we go.
I mean, Hugh Freeze season, and do they lose this one? And is it another close loss? And how high does the temperature turn up on Hugh Freeze this year?
And then does Auburn start recruiting Bobby Petrino right after the game on the sideline?
Yeah, that's the coaches that everybody doesn't necessarily like Bull or likes to criticize Bull between Freeze and Petrino. But that's one that'll have my attention. Not a unbelievable noon slate, but I mean it really starts with that game. I probably will be in and out of that North Carolina Virginia game. It's more of like, okay, Virginia is one of those one-loss teams in the ACC. Can they keep it rolling and get into November? Because as we get into November, to me, like I said, if based on our last conversation, if you're at 1 or 2 losses, you're in business, and you can stay in that conversation about the playoff and the ACC championship game. Obviously,
they barely beat Washington State last week, but Ole Miss barely beat Washington State too. Maybe Washington State's good. I don't know.
Super underdog cover team.
That was impressive to do back-to-back weeks on the road for Washington State. Props to them. All right, afternoon window, number 15, Missouri at number 10, Vanderbilt, 3:30 ESPN. Vanderbilt is a 2.5-point favorite. Game day goes to Nashville for the second time ever. First time was against Auburn in 2008 when Bobby Johnson was coaching the Commodores, not James Franklin. It was Bobby Johnson. James Franklin is not the only former Vanderbilt coach in history. So Vanderbilt won that one 14-13 that day, and they would gladly take another 1-point win Saturday. Anything to keep this train rolling. Missouri beat Vanderbilt 30-27 last year in Columbia in double overtime. Vanderbilt missed a 31-yard field goal that would have forced a third overtime, and that's how the game ended. I said it last week before LSU, Vanderbilt's better than they were a year ago, and they turned a narrow road loss against LSU into a pretty solid home win. So I think the table is set for them to do it again here against these Tigers. Both teams are 6-1. They both lost to Alabama. The other common opponent is South Carolina. Missouri won by 9 at home. Vanderbilt won by 24 on the road. What do you think about the showdown in Music City, Bill?
I was asked yesterday on Sirius, is this an elimination game? And it's not necessarily, but it's the loser's going to be up against it. Really another opportunity for Vanderbilt, who definitely showed they were the better team than LSU last week, to go out and do it again with Diego Pavia, that running game. Their defense is impressive. Both of these defenses are underrated. So I think we're looking at feels like that 24-21 type game, 27-24. I don't know that this will turn into a shootout. I think both quarterbacks play under control. Vanderbilt will have to slow down Ahmad Hardy, but I think they can. So, I mean, yeah, they're going to keep this rolling. Huge home game. The atmosphere ought to be good. And looking at the entire slate, this is the best game of the day. This is the world we live in. This is definitely the best, most impactful game of the day. Now that I say that, there'll be a bunch of upsets, but because Ohio State's off, Notre Dame's off, I think Georgia's off, so some of the big dogs are off, and this is definitely going to be the most impactful game in the playoff race.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how much Missouri can run on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is not loaded with a bunch of NFL guys on the defensive side, but they're very sure tacklers, and they did not allow LSU to run at all. Now, a lot of people have not let LSU run, so that wasn't like a huge accomplishment. Missouri's running game is a lot better, so we'll see. But one thing I have noticed, LSU did break one long one after poor tackling, but generally speaking, Vanderbilt's been sure tackling, and so if they can kind of keep Hardy in front of them, they should be okay. So, all right, number 11, BYU at Iowa State, 3:30 on Fox. Iowa State is a 2.5-point favorite at home. Another one of those who doesn't agree with the rankings. Big 12, heck of a race. Again, BYU at the top, 4-0, 7-0 overall. But like I said, I'm curious about this line. Iowa State coming off 1-score losses to Cincinnati and Colorado. They are 10-1 at home the last 2 years. and the only loss was a 1-pointer to Texas Tech last season. So that must explain the spread. I mean, I did some research. I couldn't find an advantage for Iowa State. BYU, better total offense, better total defense. Bear Bachmeier has a better passer rating than Rocco Becht. Is it all home field advantage? I mean, could be a letdown spot after the Holy War for BYU. I don't know. What do you think about this spread?
Nobody believes in BYU, just like they don't believe in Vandy, just like they don't believe in Georgia Tech, and BYU continues to just win ball games. I didn't think they were going to win last week, but at home, and Bear Bachmeier with that number, he's like a fullback kind of. LJ Martin's nasty. He's one of the best running
47.
backs. Yeah, and then they can hand off to LJ Martin. They're kind of it's funny. The BYU we grew up with was air it out and NFL quarterbacks and intricate pass offense. These guys are more straightforward. Run the ball, stop the run, get a couple turnovers, and if they can do that, Iowa State's probably favored because it's the Ames factor. Kind of what we were talking about with Oklahoma in the SEC. Going to Ames is not easy. Games get wonky there. BYU will have to manage that, and I think they will. I think the Cougars are the better team, and they're kind of that undefeated team that nobody wants to be there. I would say BYU, Texas A&M, Georgia Tech. Those are the people kind of want Vandy and Indy in there. I think, and Georgia Tech, but Texas A&M and BYU, we've seen them be good before.
And of course, BYU coached by Kalani Sitake at his alma mater, one of 7 coaches in the top 25, the current top 25, as we learned on Tuesday in the Trocchi Trivia. Keep your clicker handy in the 3:30 window. Number 4, Alabama is at South Carolina, 3:30. That's the ABC game. Minnesota is at Iowa, 3:30 on CBS. Any PJ Fleck chatter out there? Minnesota's 5-2 after the win at Nebraska. I haven't really heard any about him. Moving on. Number 23, Illinois is at Washington, 3:30 on the Big 10 network. That one's interesting. We got Arch, 23, Texas at Mississippi State, 4:15 on the SEC network. He had a stinker last week at Kentucky. He did okay last year against Mississippi State. This will be round 2 for Arch there.
Yeah, I mean, Arch will be fine. Again, like he didn't have a good – Kentucky's defense pretty good. So, I mean, again, Texas, one of those 2-loss teams. They just got to keep winning. Rest of that window is pretty self-explanatory. It's like, don't mess it up. But, with Texas, here's another one. Texas, if they win that game, Vandy has another big game next week.
Mm-hmm.
For the 3rd straight week, you could argue Vandy's been that they play Texas. And can they beat Texas? Can they beat Arch? And how will they stack up against that very good Texas defense? So that was my thing with Vandy over the next 3 weeks. If they can go beat LSU, Missouri, and Texas, that's 3 – I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure all of those teams are like top 25 defenses statistically. They have to be. LSU was when they played them. They might not be now, but that's 3 excellent defenses. If they can get through them, they would deserve the run that they're on.
Yeah, it's funny. All 3 of those teams won by a touchdown or less last year against Vandy, and now Vandy's trying to turn the tables this year. So we'll see if they can do that. All right, let's get into the evening window. This one I'm really looking forward to. Number 3, Texas A&M at number 20, LSU. Texas A&M 2.5-point favorite. These 2 schools once fought over Jimbo Fisher. Remember, Coach O entered 2021 on the hot seat there. Jimbo was the logical replacement. The Texas A&M jacked up his salary, a huge extension, and the rest is history. Speaking of Jimbo, did you see Feinbaum and Feinbaum predicted he's going to get a job, and then Ross Dellinger sat down with Jimbo. Jimbo's pitching himself out there. What do you think about that?
He'll be back. Maybe he'll be in LSU next year. I mean, coach there once. Maybe that's the guy they're kind of angling for. Brian Kelly's 17-1 at night games at LSU. If they lose this one, it's going to be the most viral thing in terms of like coaching hot seats for this weekend. We deal with that every Saturday at Sporting News. This coach, we did it last week. We were correct last week. Napier and Hugh Freeze were the big talking points on Sunday.
All he has to do is beat an undefeated SEC team.
I mean, but that's what you sign up for, right?
Right.
And if you're that tough at home, and Texas A&M's, we've talked about how, what did you say the record of their opponents in the SEC is? It's not good. That they haven't really played a tough schedule to this point. And I just ripped on LSU, but this is my point. Is like, okay, is LSU good? Are they going to just keep losing here in November? And, then Brian Kelly's seat will get very hot. I do like this Texas A&M team. I like the balance between Marcel Reed, the receivers, the running game, Cassius Howell on the defense. They are equipped to win this game and go in there and win that. The problem is the last 8 meetings, the home team's won. This has been the game where the home team wins. So that's why
A&M, since they joined the SEC's, never won there.
Yeah, so this is a big one. And for them to be favored, it's eye-catching for sure.
And what'd you think about the faked injury there at Mike Elko? They got caught against Arkansas. It was clearly a fake injury. Apparently, the coach was telling the guy to get down. He was not involved in the play. The previous play, no contact, fell down. Everybody was booing. Supposedly, it was not the first time during the game. Texas A&M issues a statement after they get reprimanded and fined for faking an injury. And it says, quote, "We do not agree with the decision. We never coach or instruct our players to feign injury."
Right.
Sorry, dude. You got caught. Just swallow it.
Pay the fine. Pay the fine, move on. And that's, I don't like that part of the game. And I get it with tempo offenses and all that, but just pay the fine. I don't know if you need to put more attention to it than you need to by putting out the statement and all that, but just move on. Like you paid your fine, it happened, move on.
And the rule worked how it's supposed to. The ball was snapped, the ball was spotted, the guy fell down, faked an injury, and they charged Texas A&M with a timeout. So they didn't get away with it, so to speak, but they still tried to.
Right.
And we're trying to get that out of the game. So anyway, all right, one more. Keep the clicker handy for the evening session. We got Michigan State. Trouble with the snap, 10-year anniversary, 7:30 on NBC. Michigan State not where it wants to be right now. Stanford at Miami, 7 o'clock on ESPN. Stanford coming in off a win. Miami coming in off a loss. You would not think that. 6-1 Houston and 5-2 Arizona State. ESPN 2 at 8 o'clock. Good one in the Big 12. And then Colorado and Utah will put us to bed on ESPN at 10:15.
Yeah, obviously Michigan State, that's the one. I was at the trouble with the snap game. We were talking about that in our budget meeting yesterday, where had a completely different column written about 2 seconds before that happened. It's the one rivalry in the Big Ten. Like I tell people this all the time, and Michigan State people tell you the same thing. Ohio State's biggest, best rivalry in the Big Ten. There's no question. But they don't hate each other as much as Michigan and Michigan State do, especially on the Michigan State side. And this rivalry's kind of been poisoned by some incidents the last couple of years. The tunnel fight, and then there's finger pointing. And last year, Colston Loveland and a Michigan State player get into it. The whole little brother thing, which they should probably retire. But at the time of the trouble with the snap game, Michigan State was ahead of Michigan as a program. That's no longer the case. And in fact,
those days are long gone right now.
They left with Mark D'Antonio. And ever since, it's really been Michigan retaking control. They haven't won 3 in a row at East Lansing in a very long time. So, that's part of the story here as well. So I do think it'll be I always say the 14.5-point spread is way too high in that game, because I do think Sparty will sell out. This is their biggest game. And it will be a really fun game as usual. So I look for Michigan State to hang around. I don't know that they can beat this Michigan team, because I think Michigan can hit them with the big plays in the running game. And it really comes down to Bryce Underwood controlling his emotions. If he does that, they'll be fine. Then
Paul Bunyan will go back to Ann Arbor.
Oh, there's a lot of trophies being played for this weekend. That one. And do you know what you know? I don't know if some people, I do a lot of SEC radio hits. What do Iowa and Minnesota play for?
Pig or something?
Yeah, the Floyd, the Floyd of Rosedale, which has the pig, and there's a tremendous back. The best part about all the
SEC Big Ten doesn't do trophies. We
do weird trophies with weird backstories. There's something to the effect of, I think, when, I don't want to say this wrong, I'll try. Iowa and Minnesota, they used to play for, the pig is essentially, they would play for the prize state fair pig of each state because farming, like it's a big deal.
You had to give up the actual pig?
I don't know if that's. I'm going to have to go back and look. I know that was part of the story. It was something about the prized pig of each state, and they produced some pretty big pigs in those states. So it is by far, of all those Big Ten trophies, the Bunyan, the Axe, and the Floyd are probably the three best.
Those are your three favorites?
Those are the three best ones, yeah, for sure.
All right. Let's get into the confidence contest. Every week we pick 5 games against the spread. You and I decide any 5 we want to pick, and we order them confidence style 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last week I got 12 points. You got 7 points. So I am narrowing the gap. Suddenly we got a ball game. You're up 76.5 to 72 through 8 weeks. Now, a reminder, to break even, it's 7.5 points in a week, right? With 15 points available. And you're averaging 9.6, so well over 500. I'm averaging 9. So we're doing pretty well so far in this contest. So I will kick us off. I have the honor since I won last week, and I am going to be a homer. Vanderbilt, -2.5 against Missouri. I didn't bet on the Doors last week. I should have. Not going to make the same mistake again. Like I said earlier, Vanderbilt's better this year, and I'm not sure Missouri is. Vanderbilt had that game won a couple times last year. They didn't do it. They're at home this year. Their offense showed out against a good LSU defense last week. First 6 possessions, they had 4 touchdowns and a field goal, and they ended the game taking a knee at the 1-yard line. Probably could have won by 2 touchdowns. So I think they have enough here. Game day, everybody's excited. So I'm going with Vanderbilt.
I'm going to do that shortly, but not on this one. SMU -3 at Wake. The Mustangs are playing both teams are playing well, so it is risky. SMU beat Clemson, obviously. They could get some serious momentum going into the Miami game next week. I think the difference in this game is the SMU's high-powered passing attack will make enough plays to force Wake Forest to get uncomfortable, and they win this game. Wake Forest has lost 2 games, but they've been pretty good under Jake Dickert. But I'm going to go with the Mustangs for 5. It's a low line. I figure if they're going to win, they'd win by about 10 points.
Yeah, Wake's not built to come from behind, really.
Right.
So if SMU does get a lead, they'll be fighting uphill. All right, 4-pointer for me. UCLA +25.5 at Indiana. UCLA just beat Michigan State by the same exact score as Indiana, 38-13. They've obviously pulled a 180 since getting rid of Deshaun Foster. Nico Iamaleava is playing how we thought he could play. Indiana's always capable of a blowout. I will acknowledge that, but I feel like UCLA is going to stay within 2 touchdowns in this one. So give me the 25.5.
And they should have covered last week, but the ridiculousness of Michigan State kicking a field goal down 38-10 with 13 seconds left instead of going for it on 4th and 12.
Sounds like someone who bet on UCLA.
I didn't bet on it. It was in my picks. So it's like if I did a list, I'm like 10 or 11 under right now. But if I did a list of every time the backdoor bad luck happened, it'd be a pretty long list this year, longer than usual. My 4 is Vanderbilt as well. I mean, I'm going to buy in this week. I think they're the better team. I do think it's going to be a 3-point game either way. 2 turnovers could be deadly in this game. So both teams got to protect the football in the red zone. I was impressed with Vanderbilt last week. I really was, the way that they were not afraid of LSU's athletes. They need to get a running game going a little bit. And I like Commodores for 4. So I think we're both very high on them this week.
Yep. My 3-pointer, Pitt, -6.5 against NC State. Pitt's sort of sneaky good. They close the year with Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami. Those 3 teams better bring it. They should all be on upset alert. That backyard brawl loss just sticks out as an aberration. Since they've switched QBs to Mason Heinschel, they've routed BC, won at Florida State, and then won at Syracuse by 17. NC State coming off a bye week. They've lost 3 of 4. The last one was a 36-7 loss to Notre Dame. I think Pitt sneaking up on people.
Yeah, they're doing really well. That's not a bad pick at all. My 3 is this. I said I would get to this. Kansas has lost 16 in a row to Kansas State. 16 in a row. It's like one of those rivalry streaks that goes under the radar. I They're at home. I think they break it this week, -3. I'm going to go Jayhawks. This game, they've had some chances with Lance Leopold to break that losing streak, but I think of all the major in-state rivalries, that's probably the longest one right now. Like I think Virginia broke the Virginia Tech streak, right? So like it's been a minute in the Sunflower State. I think the Jayhawks get it done on Saturday. I'll go them for 3.
All right. I like that. 2-pointer for me. Virginia -10.5 at North Carolina. North Carolina was one of the games I got wrong last week when they lost to Cal on a fumble at the goal line. Their first and last offensive plays last week were fumbles. I don't know if you realize that. But anyway, Virginia, they got a highly motivated QB this week, of course. I don't think the Heels will have much of a home field advantage with the noon kickoff. Do you know the concert they have this week, Bill? Collective Soul.
Kimberly would like that. She's into those 90s bands. I've actually seen them in concert fairly recently. It was like 2 years ago. So for those of us who like the 90s rock, that's pretty funny.
Ludacris could not get it done for him. Let's see if Collective Soul can. But I'm betting against Collective Soul. I'm betting against North Carolina.
There you go. My 2, I'm going to go Michigan State plus 14.5. I mean, this rivalry rarely gets over that number, like big numbers like that. I think the Spartans can keep it close, and they are at home. They'll feed into the energy early.
Rock fight.
Yeah, it feels like it. And for Bryce Underwood being a freshman, he's played he played okay on the road at USC. This is their 4th road game. It's not quite as difficult as USC Oklahoma. It's probably about the same as Nebraska to me in terms of a road environment. So I think the Wolverines win, but it'll be by about 10 points.
All right. My 1-pointer. I'm taking LSU. Plus 2.5 against Texas A&M. I know we get a lot of Brian Kelly fans in this chat room here. But the Vultures are out, but I'm not sure Texas A&M is that good where they can be 8-0. I don't know. The Aggies' first 4 SEC opponents to date are a combined 2-12 in the league. LSU, like you said, what was it, 17-1 at home against Brian Kelly? Under Brian Kelly at night.
They're tough at night, man.
This is a backs against the wall moment. Texas A&M coming off a little bit of a grinder against Arkansas. I think LSU gets them.
So do I. That's my 1.
Oh, there you go.
So our 1 just cancels each other out. So we'll just for total there. I everything you just said, Bill. They are tough at home. They're back. I feel like this is that game where Brian Kelly, instead of having like a post-game rant where everything's terrible and we make fun of him, that they kind of hang in this playoff race. Now, if they lose, I think the 2 teams, like we talked about at the top, the 2 teams I'm watching, if they lose and viral reactions, are Ole Miss and LSU. They're the ones that got to get it done in the SEC this week. Like Mizzou, Vandy, we're not going to crush the loser of that game by any means. We will crush Ole Miss if they lose to Oklahoma, and we will crush LSU if they lose as an underdog to an undefeated team at Tiger Stadium. So, yeah, I'm going to go the Tigers back against the wall. The environment gets it done. I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a game. It'll be fun, but I like Tigers to win.
All right, let's review. I got Vanderbilt -2.5. I've got UCLA getting 25.5. Nico, come on. That's enough for you, isn't it? Pitt -6.5. Virginia -10.5 against North Carolina and Collective Soul. And LSU +2.5. You're going 5 points with SMU on the road, -3. Indy -2.5. Kansas -3 to break their losing streak against Kansas State. Michigan State +14.5 against Michigan, and LSU as well, +2.5 to wrap it up. So, all right, let's get into our Trocchi trivia, and then we will get out of here. Bill, we usually talk about all the good teams. Now we're talking about the bad teams. Can you name the 3 Power 4 teams that have the worst point differential this season?
I've got 2 of them because if what you say is true and it's Wisconsin,
correct.
Is that one of them? They've been shut out the last 2 weeks. So I figured
Wisconsin is second on this list of 3.
Is Oklahoma State one?
Oklahoma State is one by far.
Yeah,
Number one by
they've gotten
far.
drilled a lot this year.
They are up minus 153. Wisconsin is minus 77. And then number 3, the mystery team, is minus 69.
Okay, give me a second.
Come on, Bill. You can do it. Get some momentum heading into the weekend. Let's go 3 for 3 here.
Is it who's the worst team in the SEC? It can't be them, right? Like I'm drawing a blank. I know Boston College is bad. That would be my guess.
So close. Boston College is 4th, and it's not your fault because they beat Fordham 66-10 to open the season.
Okay, so
that's unfair there. They are 4th on the list. The number 3 team is poor Rich Rod and West Virginia.
Oh no.
Minus 69.
That makes sense. They did have the Pitt win, but they have been like double-digit loss like 4 straight weeks. So darn, that was close. So there you go. Father Penny was with me, BC.
Everyone I kind of tested this question out on all said BC. So but yeah, then
they're like 1-6, right?
They went 66-10 to open the season. So that keeps them out. So anyway, all right. Well, that was really fun. Let's get out of here. Thank you to everyone for listening to the CFB Nation All-America podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks to our loyal chat room guys here at youtube.com, the CFB Nation YouTube channel. Thanks to Irish Breakdown, your source for Notre Dame football information. Enjoy the day. Enjoy week 9, and we will see you next Tuesday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be here.